All right, we've got an absolutely jam-packed episode of Carving Up Live on tap for you guys tonight. Going to start with the Dallas Cowboys. Big-time win on Monday Night Football against the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm not ready to write them off just yet. I think it is on the board that they could get hot down the stretch and maybe make a potential run to the postseason. I'll explain why in just a few minutes. Also talk about LeBron James coming back for a historic, unprecedented, never been done before year number 23. Playing with the Los Angeles Lakers last night in a win over the Jazz. While LeBron's return to me adds a new dynamic to the Lakers. Obviously not, LeBron coming back is great for them, but also it adds a new dynamic that we've never seen in the entire 2-decade-plus career of the King. Talk about that. Shedeur Sanders carving up the context why it is imperative, fair or unfair, that Shedeur balls out. Got Bryson's best 10, my top 10 teams in the NFL with a lot of shakeup this week. My MVP ladder, which we do every other week on the show. Top 10 for MVP. And then at the end of the show, predictions for Buffalo Bills versus Houston Texans. So we've got a jam-packed show on Carving Up Live tonight. So let's trust the beat, baby. Here we go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on Twitch, Facebook, X, and on Instagram. I am Bryson Carver. It is great to be with you on a Wednesday. And, I was thinking about, as I was prepping for my show, when is the last time, it just goes to show you how that the times are changing in the sports world. When is the last time that I have led a show talking about the Dallas Cowboys and LeBron James? Have those two subjects not been the money makers of all sports talk, radio, television, podcast, print? You talk Cowboys, you talk LeBron, you get numbers. People are interested. But we're going to be talking about both to start the show because Cowboys won on Monday Night Football. Talk about them in just a second. LeBron James, unprecedented, never been done before. 23rd season in the NBA, came back after an injury last night against the Utah Jazz for the Lakers. Talk about that. Again, the Shedeur Sanders stuff. Some context to provide because I think it's getting weirder and weirder, sort of the narratives on both sides of the Shedeur Sanders spectrum. The people that think he's no good, the people that think he's the second coming of Tom Brady. It's all over the place. I'm going to try and center it to a certain degree. And then Bryce's best 10 MVP ladder. I think a few names on my MVP ladder may surprise you guys. And matter of fact, some individuals who may or may not be on the list. We'll discuss that. Of course, predictions for Bills versus the Texans kick off week 12. We're already in week 12 of the season. The year's flown by. So let's go and get started. But first, let's go and talk about them. America's team, they won last night, or the other night, Monday night.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Indeed, the Dallas Cowboys got back on the winning track to win 33-16 over the Las Vegas Raiders. And listen, I won't be as boisterous as I tend to be when discussing this particular player because let's keep it a buck. It was the Raiders who have won all of 2 games this season. But with that being said, I'm never going to miss an opportunity when he goes out there and balls out to not say his name from my mic to the whole world. Y'all know his name. Do me a favor, say it loud, and do me an even bigger favor and say it proud. Rain Dakota Prescott put up his numbers against the Las Vegas Raiders. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 touchdown passes. No pick. Should have had 5 touchdowns, by the way. CeeDee Lamb, who's had a bad case of the drops for the last few years. But 4 touchdown passes, no picks, 75% completion, 268 passing yards. Most of that he did in the first half. A $138 passer rating. That's phenomenal. And a QBR 0 to 100 of 86, which is sensational. So Dak was great. No surprise. He had 2 kind of off games. Didn't play very well against Denver. Wasn't good against Arizona. It was an opportunity for Dak to bounce back, do his thing. And, of course, he did that. Got off to a rough start. The 3 and outs when Pickens and CeeDee Lamb were benched. Talk about that in a second. And then the strip sack. It's like, oh, gosh, could this be another kind of bad day at the office for the Dallas Cowboys? They're coming back down to earth. And then from there on, it was complete domination. So, again, it's funny. This kind of ties me a little bit into the Shedeur Sanders story, which I'm going to talk about in a half hour. But the Cowboys, boy, they're about to take off. They're about to go on a run to the postseason. They may not lose until the postseason. Let's slow down on that. And there are folks that are completely dismissing it as if it's an impossibility. Oh, come on. They got to have a few teams ahead of them collapse. Like, we've seen that happen before. Never forget the Philadelphia Eagles in 2023. What did they start? 10-1, end up finishing 11-6, getting bounced in the first round. Like, it's happened. 11-0 Steelers, bouncing round 1, barely win the AFC North. Like, we've seen this happen in previous years in the NFL. So, Dallas, by the way, some of the teams they have ahead of them, they play us, such as a Detroit Lions team. They play Philadelphia this week. I'm here to tell you, by no means am I saying outright, bam, they're going to go on a run. I'm certainly also not saying, or what I am saying, I guess, at the end of the day is you would be very unwise to say that they can't, or that it is completely unlikely that they go on a run. You said, Bryson, they beat the Raiders. Correct. And Vegas is terrible. Again, we're actually going to touch on that a little bit in the Shedeur Sanders segment because that's who Shedeur Sanders plays this Sunday in his first NFL start. But a couple of things. Number one, when you have an offense that is this good, that is second in the NFL in points per game, averaging about 32 points per game, when you have a quarterback in Dak Prescott, who can we finally admit, guys, there's a lot of great quarterbacks in today's game. Don't get me wrong. He's indisputably one of the 10 best, obviously. I mean, we're 10 years in. The numbers, the wins, dominating the NFC East the way that he has, which has been a good division of the last few years, has had a Super Bowl champion for almost all of Dak's career, or at least has had a team that's recently won the Super Bowl all of Dak's career in Philadelphia. Dak's a top 10 quarterback. You've got a CeeDee Lamb, who's a top 10, some people think even a top 5 receiver. And you've got a George Pickens, who y'all know I'm a Steelers fan. And I was, and I'm not going to lie, still in favor of my team trading him to the Dallas Cowboys. Because as Gary Dulac said yesterday in the Rich Eisen show, yeah, they didn't trade him because he wasn't talented. They didn't trade him because he wasn't good or really productive. They knew he'd be great with a quarterback like Dak Prescott. He was going to get him the ball. Of course, George Pickens was going to put up numbers. He said, did you know this? George Pickens, second in the NFL in receiving yards to Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's probably going to run away with the receiving title. So he's had a big-time season. Stepped up in a major way in the absence of CeeDee Lamb earlier this year. It's okay once he gets a contract, because at worst case, he's going to get franchise tag. Best case, he gets a new contract to stay with the Dallas Cowboys, who I imagine a lot of Cowboys fans want to keep him, understandably so. Then what? Then does he go back to be the old George Pickens? Then does he go back to be the George Pickens, who apparently is having a terrible influence on CeeDee Lamb out here missing curfew. I read that CeeDee Lamb's, they found him vomiting outside of Las Vegas at 7:30 a.m. on game day, which is almost certainly why Schottenheimer and the Dallas Cowboys benched Pickens and Lamb for the first drive. But all's right in the world. George Pickens, 9 catches for $144. CeeDee Lamb had what should have been 2 touchdowns. Ferguson got involved. Javonte Williams ran the football effectively. I still think Dallas's offensive line, it's very young, but is that good in pass protection? Dak was still having to make some plays with his legs, which he's fully capable of doing. When you have an offense this good, and then you transition to the defensive side, and let's be real, that Dallas defensive line going against what is one of, if not the worst offensive lines in the league, which the Vegas Raiders obviously have. When you have a Quinnen Williams, who Cowboys traded for, I was not in favor of the trade, not because I don't think Quinnen Williams is great. He is. There's so much more value in those picks and the flexibility of what you can do with them. And now you have 3 defensive tackles making in excess of $20 million a year. So you're going to have to cut one of them. It'll be Diggy Zua, which is probably who it's going to be, Kenny Clark, or Quinnen Williams. But Quinnen Williams, 1.5 sacks. I think he had 5-6 quarterback hits, a career high. Some of the other guys coming back, Overshown, who's an unbelievably athletic linebacker, has shown flashes when he's been healthy. He's kind of had an injury history with the Cowboys. They've added some guys. Obviously, they traded for Logan Wilson at the deadline from Cincinnati. So Jerry Jones says, hey, we get these guys back from injury. We add Logan Wilson and Quinnen Williams in particular. We don't have to be the 85 Bears or the 2000 Ravens, but can we be a league average defense? I'm not convinced after just one game that will be the case. What I can tell you is this. If they are the 18th best defense in the NFL the rest of the way, then they're going to the playoffs because that offense is too darn good. Because if you look at Dallas' schedule the rest of the way, so Dallas 4-5-1. Dallas is in a really, it could be a blessing and it could be a curse because they have that tie with Green Bay. All of the 9-win teams, they'll have an advantage on. If they win 9 games and other teams finish 9-8, Dallas has the advantage because they'll be 9-7-1, while other teams will be 9-8. So Dallas will get the head-to-head win there. But if some teams have 10 wins and Dallas is at 9-7, the 10-win teams obviously get the advantage. So it's a weird spot. But the rest of the way, this Sunday, Philadelphia Eagles. Well, Dak Prescott, as I've talked about many times on the show, has had some of the best games of his career against Philadelphia. He is 6-1 in his career at home at Jerry World, AT&T Stadium against the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, maybe a preview for my upset of the week on Friday. You'll have to stay tuned for that. Home game against the Kansas City Chiefs on Thanksgiving Day. That's a desperation spot. Really, every game's a desperation spot for Kansas City. Desperation spot for Dallas. It's a short week for the Chiefs, too. I think Dallas could very well win that game. But that is hard for me to say. Gosh, do or die game. Do I trust the Dallas Cowboys or the Kansas City Chiefs? So even if Dallas loses that game, the rest of the way, at Detroit. Is Detroit known for having a great defense? Dak has had a lot of success in his career against them, although last year notwithstanding. Minnesota doesn't have a quarterback. Straight up, Dallas will win that game. Chargers don't have an offensive line. That favors Dallas. Then he's finished with Washington, the Giants. All of a sudden, you say, hey, if we can down the stretch of the season, go 6-1 the rest of the way, we're in. 10-6-1, that'll probably get you in the NFC. Why? Because of the NFC North, because of the NFC West. Those teams will just beat up on each other. The Bears and Packers and the Lions, I'm sure Minnesota will maybe hand one of those teams a loss in there. They're too well coached not to. Divisional familiarity. NFC West, same thing. You've got the Rams and the Seahawks and the Niners. Those teams are going to beat each other up a little bit. It's there. Dallas does not control their own destiny, but they don't necessarily have to, per se. To me, they only have room for error for one more loss. Because that tie could be a blessing or it could be a curse. Like, gosh, you'd really love to have that win. Because now you're sitting at 5-5. Okay, we're in this mix. Right? We're what would be at 2 games back of a playoff spot in mid-November? We're good. We got a shot. But I think it would be unwise to say that this team can't win. And Dak Prescott kind of talked about it after the game, like, why not us?
Yeah, the confidence that these men have, the way that we played tonight, just the brotherhood. I said we've been tested, right? And our brother has been tested. And it's time for us to make something and answer that challenge and show the world what we're about and show the world our true brotherhood. And that's going to be honoring Marshawn with our effort and the way that we play each and every snap. And why not?
And you heard him mention Marshawn. Of course, he was referring to the late Marshawn Nealon, who, of course, tragically took his own life a couple of weeks ago. So it's been a really, really tough 10 days for the Dallas Cowboys, the organization, teammates, obviously none more so than Marshawn Nealon's family. I also want to say this about Dak, because y'all know, anybody that's watched the show, I always say, I've got Dak's bobblehead right behind me. What is he? He's nodding in agreement. There you go. But I've always said this about Dak Prescott, and people know that watch the show that I'm a huge fan of the guy and have been for a decade plus. Is obviously there was no one questioning Dak's leadership because he's got a reputation for being one of the best in the NFL in that department. But if there were any game that I could point to in Dak's entire career to say, who is Dak Prescott as a leader? Monday night. Before the game, obviously the Cowboys and the coaches wore him throughout the entire game with the T-shirts with Marshawn Nealon's face on them. And Dak gave an incredible pregame speech to his teammates in the huddle prior to them going to the locker room for the last time before the game started. And then just all throughout, like all the emotion, all of the, we're gonna play harder for Marshawn. Where he talks about Marshawn saying was one love. We're gonna play with one love, run harder to the football, play the game that he loved to play, and play and able to be able to honor his memory. And Dak, even after the game, was talking to Scott Van Pelt, who's as consummate professional as there is in the business. And I thought he gave a fantastic answer in terms of mental health and the vulnerability that has to be associated with improving, with getting better, with addressing some of those issues that so many of us deal with. And I just thought, obviously Dak played really well. But from a leadership perspective, that would be Dak Prescott. That would be kind of the moniker of a great leader, or the example, the model of a great leader that you'd want to see, is what Dak showed. And we'll also play it by as well. Brian Schottenheimer, who has been talking about leadership as well. Schottenheimer's been fantastic in all this as well. Head coach of the Cowboys, first season. No one could have imagined that he and the team would be thrown into this horrible spot. And Schottenheimer talked to his team after the game, and it was a really, really emotional moment. Take a listen.
Hey, listen up. Hey, before we do all the celebration stuff, let that thing go. Hold it. So proud of you guys, man. Amen. Tough couple weeks. We made them proud. You guys made them proud, man. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was. They did. You could tell there was just a special energy in that stadium. Dallas, obviously, they knew that was a game, especially with the tough games coming up, that they had to win. But Very, very emotional night playing for Marshawn Nealon, and I think it is absolutely fair to say they honored his memory in a fantastic way. So shifting now, it's funny you talk about, I said at the top of the show, the moneymakers in this business, radio, television, podcasting, print, you name it. The two moneymakers in the last 20 years or so. The Dallas Cowboys, LeBron James. Those are two. You talk about those, everyone's gonna be intrigued. Positive, negative, somewhere in between. So LeBron James made his season debut with the Los Angeles Lakers, and in doing so, he made NBA history, became the first player in the 80-year history of the National Basketball Association to play his 23rd season. I think only Vince Carter, who retired about 5 years ago, had gotten to 22. LeBron gets to 23, which is fitting because he's worn 23 for the majority of his career. And if we can show LeBron's stat line against the Utah Jazz, pretty darn solid. So you see 11 points, 4 for 7 from the field, 2 of 3 from three-point range. Like, didn't shoot the ball much, but 12 assists, chipped in 3 rebounds as well. Did that all in 30 minutes of play against the Utah Jazz. And, watching this game, there's a couple of things that stood out. Number one is, and we'll play a bite from LeBron at the end of the segment that I think kind of confirms this, is I don't know if I've ever seen LeBron play with as much freedom and joy. It's like, with the guy that's played in 10 finals, multiple game 7s in the finals, like a basketball game in November against one of the worst defensive teams in the league, the Utah Jazz, one of the worst teams in general in the league. It's not like the guy's gonna be like nervous or something, of course. But there just seemed to be just his body language. He was out there smiling on the court, and that's not, LeBron tends to be very much a head down, not like Westbrook where he's like rigid, but very much focused, locked in the moment, tunnel vision. It's not a knock on LeBron because I love the guy, but it's one of the things that draws me so much to Steph Curry. Steph will, he'll be laughing. He might be talking trash. Last night against the Orlando Magic, he was faking he was making fun of a pump fake by Jalen Suggs. Like, Steph's just having a blast out there. We've seen players and athletes like that. That's not necessarily a LeBron gets going per se. And so to see that last night, it was kind of cool to see. I've said many times on the show, in any industry, it is really awesome to see somebody that does what they love and you can see it. It really, really is. And so that was cool from LeBron. And I think a lot of that was two things. The second of which I'll kind of dive into. The first of which is, I'm back. Playing my first game of the season. This is obviously the history aspect of it, 23 years in the NBA, but also I'm a basketball player. Like, I've been doing this for 23 years in the NBA. As LeBron said afterwards, I've been doing this since I was 9 years old. Like, I love the game. And I just think him being out there after missing opening night, and we'll play a soundbite from LeBron that kind of confirmed this after the game, but there was a joy that came with that. The second reason I think there was so much of not even that much of a difference per se, but you could tell there was something about LeBron that didn't resemble teams of LeBron's past. Heck, Lakers teams of LeBron's past. The majority of LeBron's prime, Cleveland, Miami. The end of his prime with the Lakers, and then what we've seen since, which has still been pretty darn good, is that, remember in 2020, after the Lakers won the finals in the bubble, season starts just 2 months later. I remember they had a game a few days before Christmas against the LA Clippers. They revealed the banner, the whole thing, in front of an empty arena. And the whole narrative, the whole expectation coming into that 2020-2021 season for the Lakers was, okay, LeBron's still great. Anthony Davis, he's going to be the next great Lakers big. It's his time to shine. LeBron was the best player, could have won MVP the year prior, got us to the finals, won a championship, unprecedented circumstance of the bubble. He's still going to be great. It's Anthony Davis' time to carry the torch. AD at that point was going into year, I think, 8 as an active player in the NBA. LeBron James was going into year 18. So it was like the torch was going to be passed. And Anthony Davis comes to camp totally out of shape. And I can just imagine, LeBron and AD were close, clutch sports, Rich Paul, all that. But I can just imagine LeBron shows up at Laker camp. And, it was during the pandemic. It's not like there was much to do anyway, right? I can imagine he just looks over across the court. He's like, so I'm year 18, 37, 38 years old, whatever he was. I'm still going to have to carry this team, huh? That's okay. All right. So it's my team, and AD is going to be Robin, I guess. That's how it's going to go. And year after year, they're waiting for AD to take the mantle, and he just doesn't, because that's not in AD's, psychological identity as a basketball player. It's not. For the first time, maybe in his basketball life, LeBron enters a season knowing he's not player number one, he's not option number one, and knowing he does not have to be option number one. Because when you got Luka Doncic, full off season, in shape. You saw Luka last night. What do you have? 37 points. You've seen Luka over the course of the season. He's looked fantastic. Very much along the, up there with Shea and Jokic as MVP contenders, per usual. It's kind of the three we expected it would be, right? Along with Giannis. Now that he's in shape, now that it is officially, he signed the extension, he's a Laker. The Dallas trade, that's over. He's a Laker for, presumably, if Lakers fans hope this will be the case, for the rest of his prime. I could be able to ride off in the sunset and score. Like, LeBron's going to take more than seven shots. A lot of that was played 30 minutes. Jazz are a bad defensive team, kind of feeling out the game. We talk about game ones over the course of LeBron's career. Like, he tended to always lose game ones in the conference or NBA finals because he was a feel-out game. It was kind of like Belichick and Brady in the first quarter of Super Bowls, right? It's a feel-out process. I feel like that's kind of what it was for LeBron last night. Because he could have scored 25 if he wanted to, but feel out the game and find a new role. Is that part of the things that have hurt Luka Doncic teams in the past, as great as he is, as all-time gifted of an offensive talent as he is, there's no question about it, the ball does tend to be kind of stagnant when he's the center of the offense. It's part of that's because he's so darn great and can get almost any shot that he wants, but it doesn't necessarily keep the defense guessing, right? The other team on the other end can kind of get a breather. Your teammates, the other four guys on the floor, can't necessarily get going. That's why Jalen Brunson was never quite able to get to his peak in terms of his productivity, because he's also a ball-dominant player. So's Luka. Like, they worked, but Jalen was always better without Luka than with him. And you see Jalen's crushing it with the Knicks. Luka's still one of the three best players in basketball. LeBron knows, well, I can be the guy to get the ball hopping. I can play off ball. People are like, well, LeBron's never been good off the ball. By the way, I've always said that on the show. Like, that's kind of when LeBron's only offensive weakness, can't play that well off the ball. Is some of that because outside of Kyrie Irving in Cleveland, and that was only for, 3 years, LeBron's kind of always had to be on the ball making all of the decisions. And even still, Kyrie would, as great of a shooter as he is, they would play him off the ball on the wing and have LeBron control the offense. Kyrie wasn't as close to a true traditional point guard as LeBron was in Cleveland. Well, now he can be that with the Los Angeles Lakers. You saw last night, and again, it's kind of like talking about the Cowboys with the Raiders. It is the Jazz. They are the worst defensive team in basketball. We get that. But popping the ball around, getting it moving, again, it's not like Golden State Warriors or prime San Antonio Spurs-esque, but ball's moving. It's not stagnant. Luka's getting his shots. LeBron's distributing to Austin Reeves and some of the other guys have got with the Lakers. Now, I still believe the biggest weakness of this basketball team when it's all said and done, or at least the biggest scapegoat for this team, will be DeAndre Ayton / lack of size, because Ayton's not really a true traditional big, not a guy who's just going to all the time consistently, get double-digit rebounds every single night. Not effort level always has kind of been a question of his. He's not a rim protector whatsoever. Like, the Lakers need to address their lack of depth at the big position some point before the trade deadline with Rob Pelinka. But I said after the Lakers lost opening night to my Warriors, I came on the show the next day. And obviously I knew, LeBron didn't play in that game. I came on the show the next day and I said, Luka's going to be amazing. Luka was my preseason pick for MVP. Austin Reeves has had an excellent season thus far. JJ Redick, as I thought he did last year, is going to get the absolute most out of this group that he can. He is a floor raiser, for a team like the Lakers that doesn't have as much shooting as would be preferred outside of a guy like LaRavia and Austin Reeves and guys like that. I don't think they're contenders. Because the fact, A, the West is insanely deep. B, no one's in Oklahoma City's class right now. C, I don't know if I trust LeBron to be able to stay healthy at this point last year. Remember, he got hurt at the end of last season in the postseason. 2 years ago against Denver, or not even just against Denver, the whole postseason run, foot wasn't totally healthy against Memphis, Golden State, and Denver. He is 40, but he's about to be, 41 years old? Year 23, there's only, Father Time's undefeated. Only so much tread that those tires can take at this stage of his career. First time he's come into a season injured. But seeing last night, again, small sample size, and it's the Utah Jazz. Ball's moving. He can kind of play more of a distributor role. Who can score whenever he wants to, obviously. If Luka's on the bench, it's just LeBron. LeBron can initiate the offense for himself or for others. So I still think Ayton will end up being the scapegoat of this team. I think the lack of depth at the big position is going to hurt the Lakers if they don't make an addition at the deadline. They obviously tried last year with Mark Williams, didn't work, and then they were end up left with Jackson Hayes, who was pretty much unplayable in the postseason last year against a big team like Minnesota. But we've seen this Lakers team match up pretty well against Oklahoma City. Didn't they beat them toward the end of the regular season last year, and then probably would have beaten them if Luka hadn't gotten ejected in the third quarter of that game? Like the teams like the Lakers, teams like Golden State who had success against OKC last year. Like OKC's running through everybody. It's an 82-game season. They will, I don't want to say come back down to earth, but they're going to lose eventually. And they're going to have their rough part of the season like everybody does. So I don't know. I saw that last night, and it's that said a lot. I think the joy of LeBron, being back playing basketball, it's what he loves to do. It's his greatest love, in the world. And number two is, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm going into here knowing I'm Robin. First time in his basketball life, probably, that he has not been the best player in his team. And he knows it. And the Lakers know there's a clear hierarchy. And LeBron's like, thank God, I've wanted to be in this role for 5 years. AD just wouldn't take it. Luka can. Luka's an alpha dog. I can play second fiddle to him. And LeBron talked about his return after the game.
It was just fun to be out there with the guys, man. Like I said, it's been rough, like mentally for me. Like it's the first time I've started a basketball season and not played since I've started playing basketball. Like 9 years old, I've never missed the beginning of a basketball season. And so, just going through that. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, and everything just tested me, and just keeping my head down, with the work, and then keeping my head up with faith, and got me to this point today, and it's just great. A lot of joy, a lot of probably seeing me smiling and talking a lot on the court today. Just being out with those guys is so fun.
And you saw it last night again, and that had a lot to do with just the joy. Again, it was because I used to be a LeBron hater, especially after 2016. Oh, God, I couldn't stand him. And then that run he put together in the 2018 playoffs, and that Cavs team was awful getting into the finals, what did he have, like 7 40-point games or something? He's playing all 48 and some of that was when I was like, okay, this guy's a freak. Like, don't quit hating on him. It's kind of like when I stopped hating on Brady after the 28-3 comeback against Atlanta because I was a Peyton Manning guy, Vols fan. I saw them like, what's the point? Why would I do this? Appreciate greatness when you see it. And again, it's not even a knock on LeBron because it's how he ticks. We all work differently psychologically in our own fields. But seeing somebody who, again, just absolutely positively, the joy exudes out of them whenever they are doing what they love. Again, it's one of the reasons I'm a massive fan. Steph Curry is my favorite professional athlete of all time. I love seeing that from LeBron last night. I really did. And so, again, some of it, it's a Jazz, it's at home, it's a season debut, but it was really cool to see. And especially knowing, and LeBron kind of referred to this after the game in his post-game presser in the locker room, like, I don't have a lot of these left. Like, he hasn't said if this year will be his last year. My guess is it will probably be next season. Because LeBron, I don't fault him for this whatsoever. He'll be like a Michael, be like a Kobe, be someone who's like retirement tour, like just so all the fans know, this will be my last year. So I think my guess is that LeBron comes back next year. We got a ways to go before we get to that stage. But I saw that last night, and the Lakers have holes. I don't really buy DeAndre Ayton as a true big that can match up against the Jokic's of the world, against the Chet Holmgrens and Hartensteins of the world in Oklahoma City. But if they can add some depth at that position to where Ayton's not having to man all the minutes of that spot, I think the Lakers can be a very scary team in the postseason, especially with Luka in shape. That could be very dangerous. All right, we're going to come back in 1 minute. Carving up the context is a segment we do each and every Wednesday, as well as Bryson's Best 10, of course, which will come up in about 15 minutes. But when we come back, Shedeur Sanders, it has been announced officially today. We called it on Monday's show. It's been officially announced today because Dylan Gabriel's in concussion protocol. Shedeur Sanders, son of the great Deion Sanders, will be starting his very first game in the NFL this Sunday against the Las Vegas Raiders. Talk about that and carving up the context after the break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate everybody stopping by on a Wednesday. It's 2 segments we do every single Wednesday. It is Carving Up the Context, and it is Bryson's Best 10. Bryson's Best 10, my top 10 teams in the NFL, coming up in about 10 to 15 minutes, as well as a segment I've introduced to the show this year. Did it on the anniversary episode of Carving Up Live last month. Going to do it every other week. Well, this is that every other week. Bryson's MVP ladder that comes up right after Bryson's Best 10, and then predictions for Bills versus Texans. But first, Carving Up the Context. Again, we look into a story. We look a little bit deeper than what would meet the surface level. So, funny we're talking about Shedeur Sanders because I always quote his father, Deion Sanders. So, as the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, primetime Deion Sanders says, "Give me my theme music." On this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, wanted to talk about Shedeur Sanders, who is going to be making the very first start of his career this Sunday in Vegas against the Raiders. So, first of all, a little bit of a pat on the back, a little bit. I can admit when I'm wrong, but when I'm right, I will not hesitate to scream it to the roof, scream it from the rooftops. I literally said on Friday's show, I was slightly wrong in the details on how we would get there, but I said Friday's show, the game between Baltimore and Cleveland would lead to Shedeur Sanders making his first start against Vegas. I thought it was going to be because Ravens are on a roll. I know Cleveland is a tough place to play in the AFC North, but Dillon Gabriel struggles against that Baltimore defense. Browns fans are chanting for Shedeur Sanders. He maybe comes in at the end of the game, then starts the next week. Turns out it was an injury to Dillon Gabriel that led to Shedeur appearing in the second half against the Ravens and then making his first start of his career this Sunday against the Vegas Raiders. So much of this Shedeur Sanders story for me, I would almost liken it to, and this is going to sound weird, but just follow me here. I would almost liken this Shedeur Sanders story to how I personally view my political beliefs. I'm a moderate that tends to lean left on majority of issues. However, I certainly don't go to the furthest to the left. Their message tends to, run thin on average everyday Americans, and the far right, well, you see what they're doing right now. People tend to overreact to stuff one way or the other, when in reality, it tends to be somewhere in the middle. That's how I feel about the Shedeur Sanders coverage going back to the draft when he fell as low as he did. The Shedeur Sanders defenders and fans and stands, whatever you want to call them. Man, he was the best quarterback in this draft. He should have went first overall with Tennessee Titans. He was the best quarterback in college football last season. He should have went round 1, pick 1. So the fact that he fell as low as he did is evidence potentially of a grand conspiracy. Now, do I think it is on the board that teams, to spite Deion because of how that whole draft process shook out, wanted to get back at him? Sure. I also think if Shedeur was a talent like a Caleb Williams, a Drake May, a Jaden Daniels, guys that we saw last year in the draft, 2024, which was a night and day better quarterback draft than 2025, it probably wouldn't have mattered that much. Because there were concerns to a certain degree about Caleb. There were concerns about Jaden Daniels' physical stature that have kind of materialized this season with the Washington Commanders. Yeah, but if they're talented enough, we'll draft them to save our franchise, especially for the Cleveland Browns. There's the other side of the coin. Shedeur's not that good. I mean, there's a reason he fell as low as he did, because guys like Cam Ward were more talented, which I agree with, by the way. Guys like Jackson Dart, which he's shown that. I thought Jackson Dart had some ability. I had him more as like a second-round pick, but still, no issue with him going late first round. But then from there, Tyler Shuck, Dillon Gabriel, Jalen Milroe, some of these guys like Milroe, high upside, but very much a project. A ways to go till we get a finished product with him. Dillon Gabriel, physically limited, and Tyler Shuck, injuries in college and had to play a long time in college just to get to the National Football League. Where in reality, it's somewhere in the middle. Here's what I will say. Because confirmation bias for the haters, and of course the lovers of Shedeur Sanders are going to defend him, is that Sunday, 4 for 16, what do you have, like 47 yards, the bad interception, he did get hit on the play, but it was still not a good throw at all. Nate Wiggins picks it off, goes the other way for the Ravens. missing the deep ball late that could have tied the game. Confirmation bias for those that did not believe in Shedeur. And for those that didn't, for those that did believe in Shedeur, it's like, man, he was thrown in cold. Hasn't worked with the first team, rep guys. Hasn't worked with the first team offense. This is a grand conspiracy by Kevin Stefanski. We'll know the backup once the regular season starts never works with the first team starters because the first team quarterback works with the first team starters. You get where I'm going. It's not abnormal. So anybody acting like it is, it doesn't know what they're talking about. Here's what I will say, because I have been again, somewhere in the middle of the store. I think, in my opinion, I thought he was the second best quarterback in the draft. I could hear an argument for Jackson Dart. He was no lower than third with Shedeur. I thought he was more talented than Chuck, Jalen Milroe, and certainly Dylan Gabriel. I also said, anybody acting like that, it is an absolute travesty and a grand conspiracy that he wasn't the day one starter or that he wasn't starting by midseason. He was a very good player at Colorado. So we're just going to act like there haven't been some of the greatest players in college football history that kind of bombed in the NFL. We've had Heisman Trophy winners that were draft busts that didn't work at the quarterback position. See all the time. Guys who were insane in college and didn't pan out in the National Football League. And so with Shedeur Sanders, here's what I will say. Because I'm pulling for the get. I think he's got a good heart. I liked some of the leadership intangibles that he showed at Colorado. I think the fact that he helped, obviously when his dad came to Colorado in 2023, he helped take over a program that was 1-11 the previous season and had lost their 11 games on average by 29 points. They were the worst FBS school in America. By year 2, they won, 8 games, 9 games? End up being a legit bowl team. Lost to BYU, but good team. Travis Hunter, we remember the Colorado teams the last couple of years prior to 2025. Dealing with bad offensive lines, having to play from behind, like not the perfect fair weather life of a college quarterback at Ohio State and at Notre Dame and Alabama and Georgia. Not to short any of those quarterbacks at those schools, but it's an objectively easier life when you're throwing to future first-round picks, getting protected by future first-round picks, and the defense is full of future first-round picks, and your coach is one of the best in the NFL, in college football. It's easier. It's not when you're at Colorado and you're helping rebuild a mess from nothing. So I liked the traits I saw. Accurate. Arm strength, not great, but better than Dylan Gabriel, certainly. Could play from behind. Held on the ball too long. Some of that was bad offensive line play. Some of that he's got to correct that, but we've seen quarterbacks do that. Caleb Williams, to a degree, has corrected that with the Chicago Bears. There won't be, for keeping a buck, excuses if he performs poorly against the Vegas Raiders. A couple of reasons why. Number one, go and put up Dylan Gabriel's stat line in the first few games of his career. Go and put up Dylan Gabriel's stat line. So you see it. 7 touchdowns, 2 picks, 59% completion, 117 pass yards per game. Passer rating of 80, QBR 0 to 100 of 31. Can Shedeur Sanders, who I think even the staunchest of Shedeur Sanders critics would say physically he's more gifted than Dylan Gabriel, and Lord knows that matters at the quarterback position. Can he be better than this against a Vegas Raiders defense that, if you check the numbers, not very good. 23rd in points. Give up a lot of big plays down the field. Yes, Max Crosby is sensational, but not that great, in terms of not giving up big plays. Obviously, the bad offense backed them up. By the way, with Myles Garrett on your team, all the more reason why you should win and probably win by 7 to 10 points if you're the Cleveland Browns. He gets all week to work with the first team offense. He didn't last week. He does this week. He's working with the receivers. Work with Kevin Stefanski, who is providing gameplay. Kevin Stefanski, who I've had to hear from the Shedeur fans, is like, again, this is grand conspiracy to screw Shedeur over. Kevin Stefanski is a 2-time coach of the year. The man got the Cleveland Browns to the postseason twice and won a playoff game. Actually, technically, he wasn't there for that game. He had COVID, but still got the Browns to playoff twice. That in and of itself should put him in the Cleveland Browns Ring of Honor or whatever they have at First Energy Field or whatever the heck the stadium's called. He's a great coach, knows what he's doing. Game plan's going to be around Shedeur. Shedeur's going to get to work with the offensive line and the receivers and the running game. And he's got Myles Garrett, who's going to be the probably unanimous defensive player of the year, backing him up, getting to Geno Smith against that Raiders offensive line, making his life a living hell. So Shedeur will probably be dealing with short fields. I'm not asking him to go out there and throw for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and a 130 passer. That's unfair. It's his first start of his career. But indoors, against a bad team, bad defense, worked with the first team starters, game plan centered around you. With all of the drama, positive and negative, that has come your way, a little bit of it, let's be honest, has come from you and your camp. Since the draft, there was the weird responding to Rex Ryan, which my advice, I said it then, I'll say it now. If Rex Ryan calls you out, don't respond. It's not worth your time. Shedeur did by not speaking in that weird press conference about a month ago. Go out there, do you, rely on what's made you successful over the course of your college career, play within the offense, go out there and get a good win against the Vegas Raiders. So on this week's edition of Carving Out the Context, it's imperative that he does. It is. With all of the drama, all the hoopla, you're playing one of the worst teams in the league, one of the worst defenses in the league, indoors, you've worked with the first team offense. It's not like the Baltimore Ravens, in Baltimore this week. Bad team that's probably playing for the first overall pick. On a short week, by the way. What you going to do? Pulling for the kid. Hope he balls out. Hope he's the starter the rest of the year in Cleveland. If he balls out enough, maybe beyond that. So that is it for this week's edition of Carving Up the Context. And with that, transition to Bryson's Best 10. Last week it was weird. I think I had, 5, 6 teams? I think it was 5 that stayed exactly where they were from the previous week. So it was kind of a boring version of Bryson's Best 10. Not a lot of movement. People pretty much stay where they were at. This week, not the case. We had some upsets. We had some teams that have been in Bryson's Best 10 and were out and came back. Some teams dropped out entirely. Some teams shot up the rankings, dropped down the rankings. I've even got a couple teams on Bryson's Best 10 that are not currently in the postseason. I'm not joking. Get the Mad Girl music going. Here we go. Let's go and talk about Bryson's Best 10. Okay, we will start at number 10, the 10th best team in the National Football League, dropping 3 spots from last week. It is the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are the 10th best team in the National Football League, and here is why. So a Ravens fan or defender or whatever would say, hey, man, on the road at Cleveland, this is a team that has kind of given Baltimore some trouble over the years. It's the first time that the Ravens have swept the Browns in like 5 seasons, which is kind of hard to believe given how much better Baltimore has run than the Cleveland Browns. But still, Lamar Jackson didn't play terribly well. I mean, he did. If not for a Mark Andrews fake tush push running at the distance for a touchdown, if not for Shedeur Sanders cold off the bench, inexperienced, throwing a pick to Nate Wiggins, the Ravens might very well lose that game. And so that's okay, they could have been 4-6 and 2 games back of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not out of the division race by any stretch, but that could have been a concern. With that being said, if you look at Baltimore over the course of the last few weeks, so really since Lamar Jackson has come back from injury, it's okay, that defense maybe is showing some signs of recovery, right? So they gave up 16 against the Chicago Bears in this 4-game winning streak. 16 to the Bears, 6 to the Dolphins. Miami's had some success offensively. 19 to the Vikings, 16 to the Browns. So some of these are struggling offenses. Some of these are teams with limited quarterbacks, but you've shown progression. You're not giving up 40 to the Houston Texans, which have an anemic offense. Like, that's not an issue. Lamar Jackson's got to be better. I think he will be better. He's tended at times to struggle against the Cleveland Browns in his career. Cleveland's got a great defense. We'll see what Baltimore does moving forward. Listen, I hope my Steelers win the division. Do I think they are? Got to be honest. Hold me to it. I really don't. I think Lamar Jackson's going to run us down. The Ravens are the 10th best team in the National Football League. At number 9, I told y'all 2 non-playoff teams were in the top 10. I'm going by the eye test. Dropping 4 spots from last week, it is the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are the 9th best team in the National Football League, and here's why. So listen, the thing with Kansas City is this. This is a do-or-die game on Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts, who, spoiler alert, are on this list, of course. They lose this game in Indianapolis to fall to 5-6. Y'all know my rule on the show. There's another team that's going to be, potentially face this. You lose 3 games in a row, I'm out. I'm out and use a playoff team. I am out and use a playoff contender or as a Super Bowl contender. You lose once, it's the NFL. Happens. Lose another game, you're on a little bit of a skid. if you lose again, knowing we got to get this game, we got to get out of this rut that we're in, and you still lose, you're out. I cannot consider you a team that is going to win 4 consecutive playoff games. If you're Kansas City, the irony will show the numbers. This is why I defended them as much as I did last year. Winning is an art. They are better by the numbers this year than they were a year ago. The numbers would show it. Average more points through the first 10 games. Average more points. Average less points given up by the defense. Way better point differential. Last year, through 10 games, plus 49. This year, plus 73. The difference, of course, you see it right there. 7-0 last year through the first 10 in one-score games. This year, 0-5. Whether it's Patrick Mahomes not being able to convert on a big drive like against the Denver Broncos or the Buffalo Bills, whether it's Chris Jones kind of blowing it on defense against the Chargers or against the Jaguars, whether it's Mahomes missing deep balls against Philadelphia, whatever the case may be, or Travis Kelce dropping a big ball that ends up going the other way for an interception for the Eagles. All of the big playmakers for Kansas City who did make all the clutch plays a season ago and throughout their dynasty are not doing that this year. Season's on the line. As far as me continuing a Super Bowl contender, season's on the line against the Colts at home at Arrowhead. We'll see what the Kansas City Chiefs are made of. If anything would show us that, the adversity that they faced in the past, they've done pretty well against that. My belief in Patrick Mahomes, it's on its last leg for this year, not in general, for this year. You lose to Indianapolis, I'm out on the Kansas City Chiefs. They, respect to them in their dynasty and the upside they've shown this year offensively, they are the 9th best team in the National Football League. At number 8, team that Kansas City's beaten twice in the Super Bowl, back in Bryson's best 10 after a few weeks off, it is the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners are the 8th best team in the National Football League, and here is why. So with San Francisco, it is, I've said it over and over. Kyle Shanahan, we talk about Steichen and Vrabel and Ben Johnson as Coach of the Year candidates. Please put Kyle Shanahan in that mix. Hey, this is a guy that prior to Sunday had Mac Jones start every game but 2. Mac Jones was cast off by the Patriots for good reason. Cast off by the Jaguars for good reason. Physically limited, noodle arm, accuracy hit or miss, and Lord knows, dirtiest quarterback in NFL history. And this man got them to 6-4 record when Brock Purdy came back from injury. So, this is this is A+ coaching by Kyle Shanahan. Missing the weapons that they missed, well, guess what? Those weapons are back. Juwan Jennings has been back. George Kittle has been back, but didn't really. And then Sunday against Arizona, okay, there's prime George Kittle. There's one of, if not the best tight end in football, showing what he can do. Ricky Pearsall's back. You'll see him start to slowly get in the mix as well. And Christian McCaffrey, quite simply, you'll see him on Bryson's MVP ladder, has been nothing short of sensational. He's going to lead the NFL in total yards, total touches. He's been unbelievable. And Robert Saleh doing what he's done, both coaches. Shanahan on offense, Saleh on defense. No Nick Bosa, no Fred Warner, who I think is the best linebacker of this generation. And they're still getting the job done. They're still playing excellent complementary football. This Niners team is scary. Now that they're healthy, do I trust Brock Purdy against good teams I'm trailing? The numbers would tell me, heck no. But playing with the lead, playing within the system, he can be effective. The Niners are the 8th best team in the National Football League. At number 7, going up one spot from last week, it is the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are the 7th best team in the National Football League, and here's why. So with Indianapolis, they actually move up even though they were coming off a bye, which bodes well for them potentially this week against the Chiefs, is that you're seeing some cracks in the armor with Daniel Jones. You're seeing the fact, really struggling against Pittsburgh, had some bad moments against Atlanta, although, to his credit, came up clutch in the end in the fourth quarter and ended overtime. Jonathan Taylor, who is without question in the MVP race of his own, maybe he could potentially tie or break LaDainian Tomlinson's single-season touchdown record. Time will tell in that regard. I also have questions about this Colts D-line in the sense that DeForest Buckner, he's on IR. That's a question. Sauce Gardner has the nickname is cooler than the player, because the player has gotten away with holding calls over the years. This year, that's not been the case. So that's got burnt a couple of times against Atlanta. Michael Penix, God bless him, hope he heals up soon, was not able to expose that. So Sauce Gardner, not a guy you necessarily want to give up first-round picks for. But I think they're well coached. Shane Steichen on the offensive side of the ball. Lunarumo on the defensive side of the ball. Once they get Buckner back, they'll be set on that side, of the football. And offensively, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, Tyler Warren, who I loved at the draft. Good O-line, well-rounded Colts team, can win a playoff game, maybe 2. They are the 7th best team in the National Football League. They've been off and on the list, back and forth, as high as, I think, number 4. as low as out of the rankings entirely. They're back this week after a week absence. At number 6, it is the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are the 6th best team in the National Football League, and here's why. So I got to be honest. Part of me said that there's a part of me that said, Bryce, you got to lower Buffalo just a little bit. Because do I think they're that great of a team per se? I think they have a great O-line. I think James Cook is great. Aside from that, defense is kind of terrible. I mean, they are tied for the most 30-yard rush touchdown given up in NFL history. They've given up 6 of those. Some kid named Sean Tucker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers goes off on them. Tampa rushes for 200. Right? They need Josh Allen to have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 touchdowns in the game, 3 passing, 3 rushing, just to win at home against the Buffalo Bills. But Josh Allen is a transformative talent. I said it on Monday's show, clips on social media. You can check it out on the channel and on all social media platforms, is that we have never seen a guy size of Big Ben, mobility of Michael Vick. That's not fair. It's just not fair. Arm strength of John Elway. I mean, we've never seen a quarterback talent quite like this. I don't think he's the greatest quarterback talent. I think that'd be Aaron Rodgers and Mahomes, 1 and 2. Elway for me would be number 3. Josh Allen would be number 4. I mean, what this guy, at his best, he's as dangerous a player as there have been in NFL history. Now, he can be a little inconsistent, which is why I don't quite put him to the level all-time talent-wise as Rodgers, Mahomes, Elway. But the guy's magic. The guy is absolutely carrying this offense, and it's the reason I picked him to win MVP, to go back-to-back before the season. We'll see if that materializes. It's going to need to if the Bills want to remain contenders. They are the 6th best team in the National Football League. At number 5, been hard on not the team, but the quarterback in particular. Up 5 spots. They moved up a lot. Last week, it is the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are the 5th best team in the National Football League, and here's why. So, I can't really be hard on the team. How could I? The defense is going to break the sack record, single season sack record, which was set, I think, by the 1984 Chicago Bears. You've got Nick Bonito, who's in the DPOY discussion, probably going to lose to Myles Garrett, but he's been absolutely sensational. You've got Zach Allen. You've got Jonathan Cooper. Hopefully, God bless him, Alex Singleton dealing with cancer. Hopefully, he's able to heal up soon. Forget football. Hopefully, he's able to heal up soon. Pat Surtain has been out. He's on IR. When he comes back, that's really going to help because I think Riley Moss can be exposed. That's kind of the only weak point of their defense. I've been saying it for years in this show, going back to when he was in San Fran, I love Talanoa Hufanga. That's my guy. When he's healthy, one of the best instinctual, hard-hitting safeties in the NFL. Vance Joseph's done a great job on the defensive side. That's not my question with Denver. Offensively, dear Lord, are they inconsistent. I mean, just Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, if I've ever seen it. So the fact that J.K. Dobbins is out maybe for the season really sucks for him and for this team. But I love their offensive line. The receiving core, it's better than people give it credit for. Cortland Sutton's a great third down target. Mims can make plays over the top. Troy Franklin, you saw him make the play late against Kansas City to get Denver in field goal range. R.J. Harvey runs the football effectively, and Sean Payton's a good play caller. Questions, Bo Nix. Bo Nix, who has been fantastic in the fourth quarter games. For the first 3, man, the accuracy is hit or miss, and it's usually miss. He's a 60% completion guy. If he's able to bring a level of consistency to the table, if this Denver passing game it's kind of like when I talk about Dallas's defense. If they are above average or even average, yeah, that team can win the Super Bowl. They absolutely can. I don't know if I trust a team that wins this many games by the skin of their teeth to win consecutive playoff games, but Denver's trying to get the 1 seed. Denver's trying to make it to where, other teams in the AFC, a stacked top of the AFC, have to go through the mile high. We'll see what happens. The Broncos are the 5th best team in the National Football League. Coming off of a loss, but only dropping 1 spot. At number 4, it is the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are the 4th best team in the National Football League, and here's why. So here's why I have Seattle only dropping 1 spot after their skin of their teeth loss to the Rams. Sam Darnold throws 4 picks in that game. And yet, if not for the Rams punter pulling off maybe the punt of the NFL season, could very well affect, the standings, tiebreakers in the NFC playoff picture when it's all said and done. If not for that, Darnold still gets in the edge of field goal range. If not for that punt, the Seahawks probably win that game. With Darnold throwing 4 picks, a lot of that's credit to Seattle's defense. Early on, kind of struggled. Stafford had, some touchdown passes. Devontae was able to hold them in check. Right, I thought McVay's play call was a little conservative in the second half, but still you give Seattle defensive line credit. You give their secondary, which is it is certainly not Legion of Boom fast. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, But as far as just raw speed, it's one of the fastest in the NFL. And we know they're well coached because Mike McDonald is a defensive guy. Clint Kubiak has done a good job with the offense. Jackson Smith and Jigba going to run away with the receiving title. Adding Rashid Shaheed, I think, is a really underrated move that the Seahawks made at the deadline. He made the catch to get them on the edge of field goal range before Myers missed the 61-yard attempt or whatever it was. The fact that they almost stole that game with Darnold playing as poorly as he did speaks to how deep the Seahawks team is, how young they are, how well coached they are. I still maintain they're a contender in the NFC. Seattle is the fourth best team in the National Football League. At number 3, moving up one spot from last week, it is the New England Patriots. The Patriots are the third best team in the National Football League, and here's why. Well, they've won 8 in a row. They're going to be the 1 seed. I'm calling it right now. Knock on wood, everyone stays healthy, in particular Drake May. They're going to be the top seed in the AFC. Schedule's easy down the stretch, and that is scary. When you consider a team that is top 10 in both all the offensive stats, all the defensive stats, scoring offense, scoring defense, that's terrifying. When you consider a Drake May, who has had a passer rating over 100 in every single game this season, except for the loss to the Raiders in Week 1, which feels like a million years ago, based on where both of those teams are at now. He's putting an MVP campaign, and let's be honest, with the draft, with free agency, Elliott Wolf, Mike Vrabel, pretty solid job of adding to that receiving corps. Stephon Diggs has been a great get for this team. You talk about guys like Pot Douglas, who's able to make plays down the field, kind of their deep threat. Travion freaking Henderson, who Patriots fans that I know have been begging for Josh McDaniels, Mike Vrabel to put in the lineup. He has been, and 4 touchdowns later over the course of the last couple of games. So running game's great. O-line, not great in pass pro. Still needs to make some additions, in the offseason and the draft. Drake May has been sensational. Vrabel's a defensive guy. The Patriots defense is fantastic. Super Bowl contender. And if the road to the AFC has to go through Foxborough, that is very, very much an advantage for the New England Patriots, who are the third best team in the National Football League. At number 2, staying with it, they've been at the spot for a few weeks now. They've been consistent. It is the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are the second best team in the National Football League, and here's why. So you probably by this point, if you watch the whole segment, know who's number 1. The only reason I didn't move the Rams past that team, A, they lost to him, so the team ahead of him has the tiebreaker. That's number 1. Number 2, and I kind of touched on this with Seattle, I was more impressed, oddly, it's going to sound weird, by the fact that Seattle was still in that game with Darnold's 4 picks, sitting up the Rams in short fields, than the fact that the Rams did win that game. Very impressive, because y'all know what I think about Seattle, right? It's not like the Rams have this crazy home field advantage at SoFi Stadium. Seahawks fans, I'm sure, made their way down, to the stadium for that game. Matt Stafford efficient. Matt Stafford is leading the NFL in touchdown passes with 27. The connection with Devontae Adams, 7 for 8 for 7 touchdowns is Matt Stafford when targeting Devontae. Puka Nacua, enough said. He's one of the 5 best receivers in the game. Kyron Williams runs the football really effectively. This team is getting more into 12, 13 personnel groups, so they can hit you a number of ways, right? They can be able to run the football effectively in that regard, or they can spread out, go with Puka and with Devontae, and be able to kill you over the top as well. Stafford's in the MVP race, is squarely in the middle, in my opinion, of the MVP race. Pass rushers, Byron Young, who's had a great year, and Jared Verse as well, are dangerous. I did think the kid, what's his name? Emmanuel Forbes played pretty well in the back end for Seattle, or for the Rams. Really talented team, Super Bowl or bust type of team. McVay's an awesome coach. They are the second best team in the National Football League. And at number 1, this might be controversial, but I respect where it is due. Number 1, a few weeks in a row now, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, the defending champs, are the best team in the National Football League, and here's why. So, said it for exactly a week now. They're the weirdest great team I've ever seen in my life. A team where to start the season, the offense is carrying the defense. The secondary is kind of getting exposed. If CeeDee Lamb doesn't drop some passes, they probably end up blowing it against Dallas, and they could have easily lost the Rams. Stafford had it going all game long, particularly in the first half. Jalen Hurts in the offense saves them at the end. The defense isn't very good against Carson Wentz. Jalen Hurts, perfect pass ring. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith saved the Eagles in the end of that one. And now we're putting up 10 against Green Bay. We're putting up 16 against Detroit. We're not really functioning that well on offense. Saquon's making a few plays here and there, but isn't showing even close to the explosiveness that we saw from a year ago. I don't know if that's wear and tear. Lane Johnson is hurt. That could really hurt them in the immediate future. And now the defense is fantastic. Now the defense is carrying offense. Now that you add a Jalen Phillips, that pass rush. Now that you add more of a leadership role, but can make plays maybe from time to time in a Brandon Graham. Jalen Carter's great. You obviously got Zach Bond. back in the secondary. DeJean and Mitchell have been sensational for this team. And we know Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive coordinators, one of the 3 or 4 best defensive coordinators in all football. Don't necessarily trust Nick Sirianni in big-time fourth-down decisions. As we've seen the last couple of weeks, it's gotten both of those teams, Packers and Lions, giving them a shot to at least tie the game against Philly. But at the end of the day, good staff, loaded roster, defending champs, beating good teams. The Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the National Football League. And we'll go and show you, if we have it here. I think I need to pull up the graphic super quick. Go and pull up my top 10 teams in the National Football League. Okay, it's not letting me, but okay, so we'll just go through the singular graphics. So in this list, it is the Ravens at number 10, so from 10 to 1. So it is the Ravens, the Chiefs, Niners, Colts, Bills, Broncos, Seahawks, Patriots, Rams, and at number 1, it is the Philadelphia Eagles. Real quick as well, I also wanted to go and do this while we are here. Go and put up the MVP ladder. Here's what I've got. I do it every other week on this show. Here's the MVP ladder for week 11. Or exiting week 11, I guess. I've still got Matthew Stafford leading the pack. He was at number 1 the last MVP ladder, leading the NFL in touchdown passes. He has been statistically in the last 19 games the best quarterback in football. I think it's like 42 touchdowns and 3 picks. Is it 3? Yeah, I think it's 3 picks. Just unbelievable stuff by Stafford. And Drake May's been almost as good. Number 2 on this list, being able to lift a Patriots offense that coming into the season we didn't necessarily think was uber talented. Now Stephon Diggs has been a great addition. Pop Douglas made some plays recently, and Travion Henderson's great. But to lift this team to be as efficient, as accurate, as mobile as he's been, Patriots fans got to feel absolutely ecstatic about the future they've got with him. Jonathan Taylor's at number 3. This is a guy who is going to lead the NFL in rushing by a mile. He very well could at least threaten LaDainian Tomlinson's single-season record of total touchdowns. He's been the lifeblood. With respect to Daniel Jones, he's been the lifeblood of that Colts offense. Christian McCaffrey's at number 4. This is a guy who has been everything to this 49ers offense. Kittle's missed time. Jennings missed time. Pearsall's missed time. Purdy has missed a lot of time. Every defensive coordinator playing the 49ers knows that's the guy we got to stop. And they haven't been able to do it. He's going to lead the NFL by a mile in touches. He's going to lead the NFL in total yards from scrimmage. He's in the MVP discussion. He's been a lifesaver for Kyle Shanahan. Josh Allen's number 4. Again, the only reason he's not a little bit higher after that incredible 6-touchdown game, which of course vaults him in part in the top 5, been a little consistent. Amazing against Tampa, not very good against the Dolphins. Amazing against, Kansas City, has had some down games, against Atlanta, New England. Been a little bit of a roller coaster. Seen some signs of the old pre-2024 limiting the turnovers, Josh Allen, but we know the upside's off the charts. Yes, Myles Garrett is number 6. This is a man who's on pace for potentially 25 sacks, which would shatter the record. 25 sacks! The man's had 10 in his last 3 games. I mean, Myles Garrett's been, not this breaking news, unblockable. He's number 6. I know the Browns have won 2 games. If he shatters the sack record, can he at least get top 5 consideration? Can he? Got to give Myles Garrett love words too. He's been amazing. Jackson Smith-Njigba, another non-quarterback. He's at number 7. This is a guy who's going to lead the NFL in receiving. It doesn't look like he's going to break Calvin Johnson's 2012 single-season yards record for a receiver, but he is leading the NFL by a mile in receiving yards. Only guy with over 1,000. Have got over 1,100 yards this season. He has been Sam Darnold's number 1 go-to guy. Made an insane one-handed catch against the Rams last week. Speed off the charts, route running amazing. There were legitimate questions. DK Metcalf gone, Tyler Lockett gone. Is he a true number 1? Yeah, he might be the number 1 receiver in the National Football League. He's at number 7. Rayne Dakota Prescott's at number 8. When you talk about a guy who has carried a Cowboys offense that has a terrible offensive line, that has obviously a CeeDee Lamb who misses the majority of the season, still able to distribute it to Pickens, still able to get guys like Ryan Flournoy and Jalen Tolbert involved. Jake Ferguson, who did nothing last year, has been a much better target for Dak this season. To be able to carry a team where you've got to, going into the game, we've got to get at least 30 because the defense is going to struggle. Obviously, last Monday, notwithstanding, I think Dak has had the best season of his career. He's playing the best football of his career. Leadership's been off the charts. He's at number 8. I've got Hurts at number 9 just for the simple fact that, listen, he's leading the NFL. I think he's actually second to Stafford in total touchdown to INT ratio, total touchdown turnover ratio. It's a guy who's been efficient. He's been as accurate as he's ever been in a season. Passer rating, I think, is in the 110 somewhere. Again, it's a guy who makes all the clutch winning plays when we absolutely need him to. He has. He made the fourth quarter throw to Devontae Smith against Kansas City and against Green Bay. The perfect pass rating against a Brian Flores coached Vikings defense. The comeback against the Rams. Being able to make plays against Dallas when Saquon isn't going and that's another thing. Saquon has not had it going this year. And Jalen Hurts still has the Eagles with the best record in the NFC. Hasn't been great the last couple of weeks. That's why he's at number 9. But look out for him as kind of a dark horse. And I've got Mahomes at number 10 for the simple fact that he's been better this year than he was a year ago when Kansas City made their 3rd straight Super Bowl. It was honestly, I'll be honest, there was no one else I could look at around the National Football League and say, they're the clear number 10. Once you get to that 7 through 10, I'm 100% confident in 1 through 6. Stafford, Drake May, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Josh Allen, Myles Garrett. From that point on, I can be swayed. 7 to 10, Smith and Jigba, Dak, Hurts, Mahomes. That's where I've got Bryson's MVP ladder, which again, do it every other week on the show. So the next one will come I guess after week 13 in a couple of weeks. Okay, before we get out of here, appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Wednesday. Going to make my predictions for tomorrow night's matchup between the Buffalo Bills, who are coming to Houston. Houston, we got a problem against the Texans on Thursday Night Football. So the thing with this game that is so weird to gauge. So Stroud's not going to play this game based on the reports. We know Houston's offense is utterly anemic. Well, so's Buffalo's defense. Buffalo's defense, which, as I said earlier on the show, on Bryce's best 10, has given up 6 30-yard rushing touchdowns this season, which I think is tied for worst in the history of the NFL. And that goes back to pre-Super Bowl era stuff. So can't really stop the run. Could Nick Chubb get it going? We will see. And then he got maybe the best defense in football. It's either the Texans or the Broncos that are in that discussion. Texas defense is unbelievably talented, skilled, strong, fast, the whole bit. D'Amico Ryans coaches that side of the ball, as we all know. Going against Josh Allen on a short week. Not a lot of time for a game plan to prepare for Joe Brady. So I'll be honest. I don't know if this would make the if I were a betting man group, if this game were on a Sunday, but I love Houston +6. I'll take Buffalo to win 24-21. I think it's a close game. It's the classic strength versus strength, weakness versus weakness game. Bills offense versus Texans defense, and then Texans offense versus Bills defense. Strength on strength, weakness on weakness. I think at the end of the day, tiebreaker tends to go with the team with the better quarterback. Obviously, Josh Allen over Davis Mills. Texans +6 at home, short week, great defense. Tend to go with teams to cover in those spots, but I've got the Buffaloes winning this one outright 24-21. They need to get this one and get almost every game the rest of the year just to keep pace with the Patriots in the AFC East and try and keep their division winning streak going. But that is what I've got for tomorrow night's game to kick off week 12. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by, as always. Be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Friday. We will not be live. It'll be a pre-recorded show, but still, check it out at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on Twitch, on X, on Instagram, Facebook. Basically, every social media platform, you can find us there. So we appreciate you tuning in. By the way, be sure to go check out the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcasts. I'm on there. We've got some amazing content creators on there as well. So check it out. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcasts. Of course, be sure to subscribe to Carving Up Live right down there. If you're on the YouTube channel, go and hit that big red subscribe button. It helps the channel grow exponentially. If you're not on the YouTube channel, go and hop over right now. It'll take you, 30 seconds? Hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all social media platforms down there, IG, X, TikTok. TikTok page is growing, so definitely be sure to check that out as well. And, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channels. If I can get my finger in the right direction. There we go. Right? There we go. It's weird when it's going in the opposite, the camera angles. But, yeah, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Carving Up with Bryson Carver. Subscribe to the Grid Network, which my show airs on as well here on YouTube. Have a great week, everybody. We will see you on Friday. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. Man, NBA, can you stop screwing over the Warriors and schedules? Dang. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.